This right here is how Paul Keating stopped himself from getting wedged. Now, in Keating's day, the Greens weren't really a thing. At least they weren't a thing till he was Prime Minister in the 1990s. But he did end up dealing with a very radical Labour left faction that opposed him on numerous instances. And a lot of those guys from Labour left ended up joining the Greens in the 1990s. There were a couple of expulsions from the Leichhardt branch. And it was these guys that were constantly creating issues for Paul Keating. And for a majority party, when it comes to managing your flank, so for the coalition, it's managing your right flank, and for the Labor Party, it's managing your left flank, it really does often come down to these two things. They go either one, you're corrupt, or two, you lack ambition. But Paul Keating actually found a way to get around that accusation and actually turn the tables on his left flank. So have a watch of this clip. This is from Keating introducing foreign banks in the 1980s, and he's speaking at the National Labour Conference, and he's making the case to the left-wing factions of his party.
It really surprises me that some people in this party think we owe Westpac something, or the ANZ Bank, or the National. That really surprises me. But let me say this to you. Let me say this to you. Let me say this to you about talking about equity and fairness. You better start with unemployment. But you can't do it with a sick economy. Banking is the artery of the economy, and we've had hardening of the arteries for too long in this country.
He was very good in then getting people to come to an acceptance of changed positions. He was very good at this.
So if you missed it, his strategy is actually pretty genius. This right here is a tape measure or a bendy ruler. At the bottom, we have the Liberal Party. That little silver tip is the Liberal Party. And basically, if we're working with the framing of the left flank of the Labour Party, around about here, let's just go here, is where Paul Keating sits. So at the bottom, you've got the Liberals, there you've got Keating, and then up here, when it comes to purity, you have the left flank of the Labour Party. What Paul Keating did is he made it into a loop so that the two extremes meet up again, and Keating is actually the furthest away from both of those. And so what Keating has done is, rather than have a continuous line where the left factions of the Labour Party exist as far away from the Liberal Party as possible, he's made it a circle where they both meet at the same end, and by such, Keating is as far away from both of them as possible. And the way that he did that was he made the conversation be about results rather than purity or ideology. If you don't know the background, Keating wanted to introduce foreign banks to increase competitiveness in the banking sector. For the Liberal Party, their donors were the Big Four, so they were like, nope, don't do that. And for the left faction of Labour, or left factions of Labour, I should say, they were very much of the belief that this could be outsourcing Australian sovereignty to foreign capital. And so they had this ideological argument about it. But what Keating did was he, rather than working within the frame of ideology, worked within the frame of results. And he went, okay, you don't want the foreign banks here. I didn't realize you guys were such huge fans of Big Four. Obviously, they're not. But when it comes to results, their actions are as consequential as what the Liberal Party is doing. And in effect, they are really enacting the exact same policy as what the Conservatives are advocating for when it came to introducing foreign banks. And so I've chatted to a bunch of guys in the Barcaldine Academy, particularly in how they mainly deal with the Greens, but you could add Socialist Alternative or any of these sort of independents that have popped up recently. And they say the same thing every time. It's like, I'm handing out flyers at a booth. Greens person comes up and has a go at me saying, I condone genocide when it comes to Palestine. And this is where the Greens are strongest. When it comes to ideology or when it comes to purity, they don't have a record of their own that they can speak of, so they can retreat to the safety of ideology. But for the Labour Party, your asset is not ideology, it's not purity, it's not even strategy, it's results. For the Labour Party, you have a track record of delivering results. The Greens Party's record is horrendous when you look at the results that they've delivered, particularly when it came to the emissions trading scheme and their actions basically ensuring that we didn't have a price on carbon throughout the 2010s. And so making the case on the results, you can go, if we take your course of action, we would end up with the exact same results as if we took the Liberal course of action. And by doing so, you actually spring the trap when it comes to a wedge. Remember what I said before, that you're either one, corrupt, or two, lack ambition? Usually the corrupt one is pretty easy to defend by itself. But secondly, when it comes to a lack of ambition, you can actually position yourself as having the most ambition. Because by taking your course of action, you are the furthest away from the status quo. You are the furthest away from the conservative establishment because you are defining success by results and not by ideology. And when you think of how you message your campaign, it really achieves the best of both worlds. Because one, in this instance, Keating does not seem like he's got a lack of boldness. This is a huge economic reform that is going to, and obviously we've seen it in hindsight, it did change the foundations of the Australian economy. No one could accuse him of not having a bold agenda. But also at the same time, he doesn't seem radical because he's positioned in the middle of his right and his left. And so it's a way that you can get the perks of being centrist in that you kind of don't rock the boat, or don't appear to rock the boat too much, but also get the perks of being radical because this is the furthest the can has been pushed down the road at the same time. In a way, it does allow you to get the best of both worlds of being a centrist but also being a radical reformer. Again, define success by results and not by ideology. And this is what was so brilliant about Keating's move, because not only was it a brilliant defensive play, it was genius strategically because it completely undermined the progressive credentials of the left factions of Labour. He says, you get the same results as the Liberal Party. And this one doesn't just come from the Greens, it comes from other parties and independents, and sometimes even Labour-aligned media, where they call the government lib-light. And yeah, maybe in some cases that might be an accurate label if they really have gone too conservative on something. But if you know that this is as far as you can push the can, and this is the best result that you can achieve, well, then you can certainly make the argument that this is not lib-light at all. This is the furthest, when it comes to results, the furthest we will get away from the Liberal Party. Obviously, we've got the benefit of hindsight, but if you look at Labor's case for the ETS, they could have hit that note a whole lot better. The ETS is the most radical reform that you can feasibly achieve without it being completely undermined just down the track. But it's no good demolishing your political opponents if you don't have a support base of your own. And so this right here is a method that even introverts can use.